these steps in the last weeks or last week specifically. We didn't have time to cover everything, but we have tried to cover as much as we can. So we talked about reconnaissance, and we talked about reconnaissance is just a phase that the attacker will try to connect to gather information about you as much as he can, okay, whether from online sources or whether from interacting with you directly, whether or doing social engineering even the phone to get more information. And we mentioned that reconnaissance consists of two phases. One of them are passive reconnaissance and one of them is active reconnaissance. And active and passive, bravo Ibtisam. We also is also said that we use something like an online sources, online intelligence to gather information like Google Docs. So I think that we have already done a lab or an assignment about Google Docs. So it's really fun. Or Multigos. Even myself, I use Multigo right now to really when I do some consultation job to really find out about companies and really get more information about who works there and what is their infrastructure looks like. So it's giving you like a graph for what they have. So this is all really fun to do. And that's why we mentioned that you really need to be very careful about what you really posting about your job, about your company or corporate environment, whether it's online sources like LinkedIn and stuff. And we have talked about, how job LinkedIn posting can really reveal a lot of information about the company and about people who work in this company. And this is also something you really need to look at, how to include information security within the HR the process of hiring and terminating. Because later on, when we terminate someone, we really also need to implement some security controls in order this person who is considered an internal threat, if he leaves and he still have a valid access to your network, you don't know really what he do. Maybe he's a terminated person and he will have a grudge against the company, so he would do something maliciously, or maybe he's disgruntled employees who still working, but he didn't get a promotion and he is still, feeling that he is not getting his right, so he can do a lot of damage. In one case, that's they have an internal threat, and this guy was working in Punjab, biggest bank. And Punjab, biggest bank, he managed to fraud around $1.8 billion. Okay, I was teaching this a couple of days ago to one of my classes, and one internal threat, he managed to almost to really fraud $2 billion. $2 billion. So this is a huge amount of money. Okay, so again, it's really important to really even to look at the HR process when we're terminating someone or when we have someone within our organization still working and we wanted to really monitor them. Okay, so we mentioned that reconnaissance finished, guys. And before the attack, we have a stage here called the pre-attack stage, which is basically scanning. And the scanning is all about is really to validate what you have find in this early beginning of reconnaissance. So I wanted to validate how many live hosts I have. Okay, what kind of ports are running on these hosts, because ports can tell me a lot about the company. So the ports basically will tell me which service are running. If I found port 25 is open, that's mail server. If I found a port 80 is running, that means we have an HTTP server. And it's really interesting to know what kind of version of servers are running, because again, if I said I wanted to turn my computer to a web server, okay? So in order to really turn your computer to a web server, you need to install a service here that will work as a web server and it will serve HTTP traffic. Okay, so what service you run? So you have Apache, okay? You can run Apache. Certain type of Apache server are vulnerable. Okay, you can run IIS from Microsoft. IIS is also a web server that can really serve website, okay, and it can also be, vulnerable. You have also Tomcat, also another version of web server that runs on the wild, and some of these web servers are really vulnerable. So I wanted to find out which port is open, and the port will tell me which server are running, and the version of this server can tell me if I can attack the version. Why the attacker will do this, guys? Because again, we have, IT system. An IT system consists of network. So the attacker will start to scan the network. And then he will start to find out what operating system runs on here, okay? Because this is important, because maybe you are running a vulnerable operating system that makes the attacker life is much easier, okay? Maybe you are running an application on top of this operating system, like a web server, for example, which is vulnerable, which is make the attackers also life is easier, because I can attack the application, and from the application, I can take over this whole system. So the attacker really, or maybe I can attack the human here, okay? And I can start to do, you know, and I can start to do a lot of, you know, scanning for vulnerability by service such as Apache and exploit them. Exactly. So I can really look at application running here and try to find a vulnerability. So the first of all, guys, and this is the logical terms that I wanted to find. We do scanning, which just doesn't say, oh, I'm doing scanning. No, what do you do in scanning? I'm checking the live host. I'm checking the port number. Once, what do you find about port number? I have 10 port numbers. What that mean? I have 10 service running on this computer. Okay, what service are running? I have this service from Apache, this service from FTP, this service from SMTP. Okay, which server is they are running? Okay, what application version they are running? Once I found the application version, guys, I can go manually and check if this specific version does have a well-known exploit. Okay, and that's what we do it manually. Okay, but really manually is not going to be helpful, especially if you're scanning a very big servers or a very big number of servers. So what you do for vulnerability scanners, because vulnerability scanners can automate the whole process. It can automate that, can find the service, and once it finds the service, it can search on a database for which service are running. Okay, so we have two types of attackers: the attackers who really do it manually, and this manually means that he is more sneaky, and he does wanted to take her time to exploit you, and he doesn't want to interact a lot with your system because he doesn't want to leave any trace. But in the same times, that it needs a lot of time. Okay, so if the attacker is sneaky and it doesn't really matter with him the time factor, then he will go to the first station or the first solution, which is a manual way to look for vulnerability. The second way is if the attacker really doesn't really about being sneaky, he can scan the system, he can look for the vulnerabilities in the system, and he try to exploit. This is more aggressive way, but it's also more obvious for us from the IT perspective security, because we can really detect his scanning and all the stuff, because he's going to send packets, and all packets means we have more traces, and more traces means that we have these guys in our system, and we can detect that's his move. Okay, so this is automatic way. Okay, but again, here in both stages, guys, I'm looking for well-known vulnerabilities. Mean what? Mean these vulnerabilities are really there in the wild, okay, and then it's been exploited, and because you are really didn't upgrade your system, or maybe you have an old operating system, or maybe you have a vulnerability that you really didn't take care of by penetration testing before, or by patch management that we talked about it last they need to download some extra software, they need to add something to the registry, they need to maybe use some DLS in your Windows, and that's why detection techniques can really detect them in the post-exploitation phase, okay? And once you detect them and you start to eradicate them and contain the damage. So what I'm trying to say here, guys, it's all the defensive life cycle and the offensive life cycles, they are really they are really goes hand in hand, and you really need to think with both mentality in order really to defend your system. Another thing that we learned, also the kill chain, we took a whole lecture about how to really detect the kill chain move and implement technical techniques, and also preventive techniques and detection techniques. So if you have doubt about what I'm talking about, that's we can really merge between detection techniques, prevention techniques, and the kill chain. I think that we have one lectures about this already uploaded. Okay, so without further ado, just let us focus on the scanning phase, because the scanning phase is the most important phase. Okay, so the scanning phase here, sometimes they call it the pre-attack phase. Okay, the whole idea here is to find a port scanner, to use a port scanner, to use network mapping, to use ping sweeping to really sweep the entire network, and I will explain what is sweeping the entire network, and vulnerability scanner. So we are really trying to find the live hosts, okay, trying to find the port number running, to find the application running on top of these servers, and try to find the version running, and to try to find if one of these versions are vulnerability. This is what the normal attackers will do. Okay, the high one profile one, they have another methodology. Okay, there is something called advanced is to find out what he did. So the only person who didn't, we don't want to. Process, okay, because you wanted to make sure that even if you get the FBI included, okay, they will not be able to extract your tracks here. Okay, so there is so many techniques out there to really destroy the digital evidence. Okay, even if the digital evidence is in an external hard drive. So it's really a big thing here. If you wanted my opinion, clearing tracks, you can just take on one course about digital forensics and about anti-digital forensics just to cover the clearing tracks part. Okay, so it's really a big thing, I would say. Is it not is not ethical in ethical hacking? Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I agree with we am. It's not 100% ethical, but again, the attacker will do it no matter what. But we are teaching you that you try to make sure that you have some traces, and you have to maintain this digital evidence. So later on, if you wanted really to track them, you can find out about them. Okay, guys. So this is the scanning phase. And then again, trackers here, we are trying to extract information about IP address, computer names, operating systems, and then eventually he will use this information to launch an attack. Okay. And if you wanted to see a nice diagram, it will say start with to see who is the live host. Okay. Start to find out about operating system running. Okay. So how to do this? By probing this network. By probing, yani send a certain traffic and wait for a certain response. And according to the response, you can tell, okay, what kind of system you are dealing with. I'm dealing with operating system like Windows or Linux. For example, I was doing some scan yesterday, and this scan was against my Kali Linux machine, and the Kali Linux was running. So I started a scan against my Kali Linux, and you can see here, guys, it's saying the port number that is running on my Kali Linux machine is 80 because I enabled the web server there. Okay, it tells you that protocol, it tells you that the port is open. Okay, it tells you the service that's running, HTTP. Okay, and it tells you again what version of this specific server is running. So it tells you this is an Apache daemon, which is service in Linux world, and this is specifically the version of web server is running. Okay, guys, so this is all it's written here. Okay, more interesting stuff. If you go to the host details, it can tell you that we manage, after we sending a lot of sync messages, to understand the operating system here. And this operating system, guys, are Linux, and the accuracy, okay, according to the probe that I send, accuracy is almost 100%. Which specific version? It doesn't give you the version, but it give you, this is specifically, I can say it's 4.15, and it can show you, okay, some important things like something called IP ID, we will using the ID later on for something called ideal scanning, and we will see why it's important. But some attackers use this to do stealth scanning on the system. Okay, one more thing that is really interesting, which is the topology. It gives you the topology here, your computer, and where exactly the other computer. So if you have 3-4 routers in between, or you have maybe 2-3 firewalls in between, it will give you the whole topology. Now, because I have my local host here, and right next to it in the same network, because we are using the same network because I'm using my VMware, it's saying that there is no anything between me and the target. So it gives you a topology. But again, if you are scanning a big network, it will give you the entire network topology. Okay, and it will show you how far you are from this network. So this is interesting for the attackers because he can now understand the map between him. Okay, exactly. It will give him the entire. So it's the topology, host details, the port numbers and running, what kind of scan I did. Okay, and also it will show you more details here about how the scan is took place. Okay, so this is all interesting information for the attacker. All what the attacker need to do now is to look for, and again, and here also there's another important thing that's about the version of Linux. It's already written here. So now I know the version of Linux. Okay, I know what service are running, and I can use this guys later on to attack. So maybe I will take this all information, and then I will do vulnerability scanning to find if there is this version specifically is vulnerable, which is makes sense. Okay, where is exactly the vulnerability scanner? We can use OpenVAS, we can use Nessus. We have set up both of them before, and it will be easy for us to scan and look at the report right now, because Nessus and OpenVAS, it will do everything here. It will scan, it try to identify which operating system, it will try to tell you which service are running, and then it will try to tell you if there is a vulnerability in this specific operating system or in this specific service. And the service, again, guys, if you are really confused about what service meaning a program that runs in your computer in I would say in a regular basis. So any programs that run an open communication to the external world, this is a service. Okay, and this is a network service. Okay, so this is any program that's here. You can say this is a service running. So I have, and the version of this service is Apache HTTPD. Okay, guys. So this is just the scanning. What we try to do in the scanning phases: live host, discover operating system, discover service running on the host, and discover vulnerability by doing what? The last part, which is vulnerability scanners and how vulnerability scanners work. I think we covered already vulnerability scanners in so many occasions, so there's no need to really give you a hard time checking. So the first part is checking live systems, how to check live systems. We can do this in a very simple way, which is basically we can use Bing, and that we have already maybe covered this before, but a Bing is a protocol called ISMB, okay, Internet Protocol, okay, to send a message as a request and waiting for a reply. If you have the destination is up and running, it will reply back. But what is really issues with Bing, okay? And the issues with Bing is two things. First of all, some organization will implement a firewall. And this firewall, guys, it will manage to block all the Bing command because it can check, what port number are you coming on and what kind of protocol you are using. And you can define here a rule in the firewall that you can really drop all this traffic. So, ISMBs, okay, it's good. It can take you a lot. But in the same time, there's so many organizations and so many routers on the internet, okay, really can stop them. So that's why, and it's also the Bing will not tell me what kind of routes I took all the way to take to the destination. That's why people started to really stay away from Bing and scanning. They start using it from time to time, but really they are not using it at all. The more interesting thing, guys, that I wanted really I explain what is port numbers. I have this lecture slides also to explain what is a port number. And the port number, again, is identification for which service running in your computer. And according to which port is open, you can tell which service are running, HTTP, SMTP, and it can tell you which versions it's running on top of it. So it's really important to understand port number. And one thing that I wanted to explain here about port number, guys, it allows our computers to do multitasking. So instead of we having IP address, okay, one IP address, if I wanted to communicate with this IP address, you need to only send one sort of traffic to this IP address, the port number will allow me to do multiple communication at the same times over one single IP address. So I can run a service over a port to do HTTP. I can another service over here, it can run FTP. So I can do with the same IP address two functionality. The port number will allow my servers to do multitasking. And multitasking, if I send the traffic over port HTTP, it means I'm requesting this service and only HTTP will respond back to me. If I send the traffic to the same IP address, but over another port, which is FTP, that means I'm requiring a file transfer, and the server will start to act accordingly and send me the file I was looking for. So why they come up with the idea behind port number is to basically allow our server using same IP address to do multitasking, okay? One thing that you wanted also to know about port numbers, we have almost 65,000 port numbers out there. Okay, we are only using 1,000 for them. Okay, and this 1,000 we call them the well-known port numbers, and the rest of them we call them random port numbers. We're using it for our communication. If you wanted to see something interesting about the port numbers and all this stuff, I will show you how the port numbers are and how flags, because we talk about flags today, also in the session today, and how flags is important. Okay, if we specify range of port scanning can be sometimes too slow. Okay, too slow to respond. Yes, if you and that's why, guys, when you run the nmap, I know that some of you have already run nmap, but you will find something interesting when the nmap finish scanning. It will tell you that we scanned only 1,000 port number. Okay, and the rest we didn't scan it. Why? Because they are very concerned about the first 1,000 port number. And some attackers right now, okay, when they wanted to communicate with you, they don't really communicate over the well-known 1,000 ports because they know that you will be able to detect this communication. So they do this sometimes over port 0 or even any port above 1,000. Okay, so in your scanning, if you are scanning for a reality, if you do penetration testing, include port 0, okay, with your 1,000, because you know most of our port scanner, they are using from 1 all the way to 1,000. Okay, they don't include the port 0. So the attacker found out about this, and they started to really exfiltrate data over port 0. So this is the point that I wanted to highlight here about port number. And this is the total number of ports number that exist in our computers, 65,000 port number. And this is the well-known port numbers is around 1,023. Okay, so this is just, I wanted to remind you about port number before we go ahead and do more scanning. So another thing that we really do in scanning, which is called ping sweep. And the ping sweep, guys, here means if I have an entire range, and if you guys remember that sometimes in the previous stage, we were talking about something called CIDR, okay? And we said that even when you do some footprinting, you can get the CIDR for an entire range for IP address for a certain company, okay? When you get this range, you wanted to find out which IP address within this CIDR is up and running, and it's where we are using this. For example, if I have CIDR that consists of 250 computers, okay? In the 250 computers, guys, I wanted to see which IP address is alive. So I can send something called ping sweep. So you send the ping to everyone inside the network over here. Okay, if I find some of them, they will reply back. Okay, that's mean he's alive. And some of them will not reply. So this one is replying. So I know the host is 6 is alive. If for example here, I know this is he's replying, so this is alive. This one didn't reply, so this is not alive. This one didn't reply, so this is not alive. So by the end, the attacker will have a list for which computers you are running and they are up and running. Okay. If you wanted to see an example for this quickly, I know that this is some stuff that you already done, and you didn't really wanted anything to do with this. But again, if I was doing yesterday scanning for an entire network, and this is my entire network at home. You can do this also for entire network for a company outside, okay? But I would really rather don't do this online scanning, because this is really, I would say, not a proper thing to do, because you don't really know what you will do with intense scanning. Some servers doesn't really know how to handle this kind of scanning. So do it for fun at home, and then later on, if you really got involved in penetration testing, do it for the entire company that you got permission to do this for. But again, I would highly recommend that you don't do scanning a lot online, because this will bring eyes to you, okay? It will bring eyes to you from your own authorities, because they know that you are basically doing a lot of scanning, and because the service providers see your traffic basically, until if you are really randomizing your traffic or using Tor networks. We'll talk about Tor networks and how to evade, getting involved. But there's some organization that when you scan them, they go after you, and that's why in this specific topic, I think later on we'll talk about certain IP address you shouldn't really scan. For example, the Department of Defense, they will give you a range of IP addresses that you shouldn't really scan. So this is something that you really doesn't want to scan. The range also from NASA, and the range of maybe the Saudi government military bases ranges. They all have all IP ranges. So don't really get these guys upset, because they can come really after you. And again, um, you are, I would say, we are nothing for them. So yeah, I don't want to upset anyone from me. Okay. One thing that we really need to talk about this, we have already talked about the board, the Bing sweep, so everyone understand the Bing sweep. I will show in a minute to you guys how the Bing sweep looks like. But again, once we finish the Bing sweep and we find the live systems, again, the methodology here saying that you go after the port numbers. I have shown you the port numbers, but again, what the port numbers? Port numbers mean that I have certain application running, okay, and this certain application using a certain protocol, and this is gonna use a certain port number, okay? So this is how port number is done. So for example, I'm using electronic emails, okay? I wanted my server to act as an electronic email. I need to install application to act as an electronic email. So I'm gonna use electronic email service running on this computer. This is will allow me to communicate over a protocol called BOB3 or BOB3, okay? And this is gonna allow me to send data, and at the same time, I really need to specify the port number for BOB3, which is 110. Again, I need to serve a HTML page, so I need to install a service, and then this service, guys, can you give me, guys, 1 minute, please? Okay, guys. Sorry about that. So we have here the certain application running, okay, to serve the. So I need to install a certain application, and this application will use a certain protocol called HTTP to communicate, and they're gonna communicate over a certain port. So we're gonna send the data and over a certain port. So this is an explanation for what is mean of application running on computer, and this application is utilizing certain protocol to send and receive data. And how do you send and receive data? We need a port number and IP address. So this is the port number, and the layer after transportation is the IP address. This is where the communication happening over the internet. So this is an explanation again for what is port number. Okay, and again, the whole idea behind port scanning, guys, port scanning can be used for so many reasons. Okay, some of these reasons are basically troubleshooting. We wanted to sometimes know why we're getting no traffic from a certain server, so we can use port scanning to understand, is port open, can we communicate to this port or no? And also we do use this for basically scanning for our security purpose. So because I wanted to find out what application you're running, what port you're running, what service you're running in the background. So I do port scanning. So this is why exactly we do port scanning. The important thing that I wanted to mention here, that in TCP protocol that we talked about long time ago, guys, is basically in order to really to communicate, okay, before the communication takes place in TCP IP, guys, we do something really called, I would say, three-way handshake. Okay, so we have TCP and UDP. We didn't talk about UDP a lot, but I will explain it in one more details. Okay, but we can also look up if the port is normal to be open or not. Exactly, OM. So we use port scanning to understand if it's like really a suspicious thing is happening for security reasons. I agree with you. So here the TCP, guys, if you allow me to explain one thing, before we start to move data between source and destination, we said the whole idea behind TCP is allow you to segment the data and send it over a network to the destination. But really before what's happening really before the TCP start the communication, guys, and we start the transferring data, we do something called three-way handshake. And the three-way handshake, guys, if you allow me, it's a way to allow you to really communicate, okay, and establish connection before you move the data. And that's why they call the TCP connection oriented, that we wanted to really make sure that we be able to talk to the server and the server would be able to talk to us back, and then we transfer the data. Okay, and that's why they call the TCP is also reliable. Okay, how can it be reliable? Why I'm explaining this now? Because really later on we'll talk about something called the stealth scanning. And in order to understand the stealth scanning, you need to understand first of all why the three handshake is happening. So if you guys allow me, I will jump one more slide here, and I will show you this is two parties here over here. They are talking to each other. Okay, Bill and Sheila. And Bill and Sheila, they are sending data to each other. So we can see here, okay, the three-way handshake will start with, I would like to talk to you, Sheila. Okay, so he will send her a message called sync. We will explain what is sync in a 1 second. It's like hi. Okay, it's initiating the communication, and he will send her a sequence number. Okay, the sequence number is what we said about TCP before. Every message will have a sequence number. And the way that TCP is reliable, if we didn't receive that sequence number, that means our message lost, and I can ask the sender again to send the message again. So look at what she's saying. She's saying, oh, I got your message. So she's saying, acknowledge, I got your send, okay? And the acknowledge 11 here means I received your 10, and I acknowledge 11 means I'm waiting for you 11 message to be sent to me, okay? And along with, I wanted to see if you are a live host, okay? You're still alive and you wanted to communicate. So I'm going to send you a sync, and I'm going to send you my sequence number as a Sheila, okay? So what happened here, guys, when you receive this message, what will happen is you need to acknowledge her message, 142, because we mentioned this is TCP is all reliability. So we need to read to acknowledge, and look at this. I'm sending to her, okay, my acknowledgement 143 that I received 142 from you, Sheila, and now the sequence number I'm sending to you is 11, which is nice. Okay. Now, if we finish this three-way handshake, now what happened is, and this is what I wanted to explain because I know that you guys maybe know the three-way handshake before, is once you finish the three-way handshake, in Sheila computer, in her computer net state, okay, in her computer network memory, it will show that Bill have initiated a communication with me, and this initiation established, and I'm really ready now to receive data from from Bill. Why I'm explaining this? Because later on, guys, we'll talk about something called the stealth scanning. And the stealth scanning, the attacker knows that it happened. And if you guys allow me quickly here, if I run, sorry, sometimes my computer is going crazy. Okay, so if I run here net state minus an, it will give me all the computers data that's it's here. So it's saying what is my local address, what is the foreign address, and state, the listening. Okay, so we can see that sometimes we have, a communication from my computer to the external computer, and it's established. That means that's again, if we're talking about the digital forensics part, the first thing that you wanted really to get out of this computer when you really did code, you wanted to look at the processes, you wanted to dump the memory, you look at network station, network status here, and drop it as well, or to take a copy for it. Why? Because this is shows that the attacker already established a communication with your link. Okay, but if the attacker wanted to be sneaky, they will not complete the whole hand check. They will do something called half scan. So they send sync. As soon as he got here a message back, he will say a reset. Why? Because he doesn't want to be in your network memory, and he doesn't want to really to be appeared for the guys who are doing forensics. Okay, so handshaking is important for TCP because it's, first of all, it defines the sequence number, it defines the acknowledgement, it defines if we both are ready to communicate over a certain port. So he's talking to here to Sheila over port 21. Okay, guys. So if port 21 is open, when you send and sync, you will get a sync back or sync acknowledge back from this port. If this port is closed, you will get a reset message from this port. Okay, guys. So the handshaking with SSL TLS provide a secure communication. Yes, but even before the SSL communication happen, okay, and the TLS happening, the TCP I would say the TCP handshake happens first, because SSL TLS handshake is about, you know, exchanging what kind of keys I'm gonna use to encrypt the data. But here I'm talking about what kind of, you know, communication ports that I wanted to communicate over. So usually, if you're communicating with a web server now, this is gonna be 443. That is, we are communicating over HTTPS. Okay, TCP handshake processes a client needs to initiate a conversation by exactly. So I like what Ghazwa said about this. Ghazwa is saying that in order to really start to tell someone something, I said hi, you said hi back, and then you start to, you know what happened yesterday. So this is exactly what's happening in the background. Okay, so I explained this one. Okay, also another thing that we really need to understand, there is certain flags in each TCP communication, in the header specifically, is very important. And maybe we have mentioned this before when we talked about really early beginning in this course about TCP, but here is also, you need to know that you need to specify in the header the source address, destination address, the sequence number. Where is the sequence number? We just got this word before. Yes, the sequence number here. It should be also in the message. The sequence number I'm sending, okay, the acknowledgement number, it should be also in the message. So the sequence number, acknowledgement number is very important. And offset and, you know, window size, it's something really to tell you how much data I will send each time I'm gonna send. And the TCP checksum, that means that I have in TCP a mechanism for error detections and control. So if something happens, I can really go back and but it's the important thing that I wanted to highlight here is the TCP flags. The TCP flags, you will see later on that I can really send one flag, and according to what I have sent to the destination and how the destination replied to me, I can tell a lot about the operating system running. I can tell a lot about ports which is open, even though there is a firewall over there. So playing with the flag is important, and we can see here, guys, there's different type of flags. We have SYN flag, we have finish flag. So SYN initiation, fin we are done, we don't want to talk anymore. You know, reset, that means this connection is not going to happen because the port is down, or the you know, the port is not operating. So I'm going to reset the connection that you're trying to initiate with me. Okay, push, I wanted to push some data to the client. Acknowledgement means that I have received your sync and I'm acknowledged that I received certain data from you. Okay, also you can guys see there is also something called urgence, means the data really need to be prioritized and send it right away to the end server or to the external server. So this is all, you know, kind of thing. And if we really looked at, you know, how this is happening in reality, okay, you will find here, if I wanted really to add sync message, I will make this one, okay, and I will make the rest of these messages 0. So that means I'm sending a sync messages, okay, and the sync messages will be SYN. So if you wanted me to share with you how this looks like, I will just jump here. Oops, sorry, just here. Okay, so if you guys can see from this diagram over here, we can see that's the acknowledgement set or acknowledgement bit 0, the push bit 0, the reset is 0, the sync is 1, and the fin is 0. That means that I'm sending a sync message. Okay, so if all of them are 0 and only sync is 1, that means I'm sending sync. If all of them are 0 except for acknowledgement, that means this is an acknowledgement message. And so, by the way, guys, you can have a little bit of fun looking at the flags and different flags and creating over. Sometimes there's some tools that can allow you to change these flags and send different kind of flags as much as you want. It doesn't have to be happening from your computer. You can really craft a bucket. And crafting the bucket, you can specify the destination port number, your event port number. You can specify your sequence number, and that is how really attackers they send different packets. Sometimes they craft these messages and send it to the destination and see how the destination will react accordingly. If you wanted really to show you something interesting about this, I will show you maybe I don't know if I have it in my Kali Linux running, but I have done this maybe a few days before. I hope that I have this running. So if I have it, so it would be cool. Um, so here is, I have my Ethernet. I have maybe looked at some HTTP traffic that I was sending between two servers. So if I put here, guys, the transmission control protocol, so this was an HTTP traffic. So I know this is what an HTTP traffic. But if I look at the really the transmission protocol, the TCP, you can see here, look, the source port number is 80, okay? The destination port number, this is the computer that requested this page, okay? The sequence number that has been sent, that I just explained what is the sequence number. The acknowledgement number came from the servers, okay, the length, and you can see if you scroll down here, okay, you can find something interesting. Here is our flags, okay? So this is the flags. I know this is some sort of, before I look, the source number is 80. That means it's coming from my servers replying to a request that it came to me before. So I kind of know that this is acknowledgement. So I will look for the acknowledgement set. I see if the acknowledgement is being set or no. Okay, and for sure I will see this acknowledgement is being set. So this is giving you the idea that here, that everything we study, it's happening in the background. So with every single communication between you and the servers, there is a TCP handshake happening in the background, and this is the the sequence acknowledgement, and these are the flags over here. So it will be fun if you guys can really start a web server in your Kali Linux and start to really monitor the traffic between your computer and the Kali Linux machine. Okay, guys? Does this make sense? Okay, so we understand what we mean by the flags over here and what each one of these flags means. And again, what we mean by setting certain flag like sync or ACK or push or fin. Another thing that I wanted to highlight here, that some attackers really are good in really implementing these flags. So instead of sending you a sync, he will send you a fin message, and he will see how your systems will react according receiving this fin message, and accordingly he can tell if your message is up and running or no, and which port is open in your computer. So this is also another thing that attackers. The difference between the three-way handshake and we have something called a four-way handshake is when we send fin message. When you send a fin message from a sender to a receiver, okay, means I finish sending the data I wanted to finish to you. You need to receive an acknowledgement from the server. So you need to receive an acknowledgement. And then later on, you will send, the server will send here, I'm finished also with you. Okay, so he will send another message and you have to send also another acknowledgement. So this is what we call four-way handshake. And four-way handshake means I'm done. I don't have anything to do to send to you. You will send me acknowledge. Okay, I got and you understand. The server also need to send you, I'm done. I have nothing to send to you. So you are waiting a message coming from here. It's called fin, and a message coming to this direction called fin. So this is, things about TCP/IP. Maybe we are mentioning it before or no. So it's important. Okay, one of the scanning tools that allow us to do all the scanning for free is Mmap or ZNmap, the one I have here. I'm telling you guys, it's fun to have this ZNmap. And again, see, I have the ping sweep. I have run the ping sweep, and I can see I have a router at home running. I have this, my Kali Linux machine, and I have another machine that maybe my machine right now is utilizing this. If I wanted to get more details, I can really look at the details from here. I know for a fact this is my routers, so this is kind of things that I'm really oh, this is my machine. So my machine now is utilizing this. Okay, and as you can see, it's already mentioned that it's Microsoft Windows 10, and the accuracy is 100%. So this is all fun to do, and we can use Mmap, HPing, There's so many tools out there they can do help you to do this. And in this section specifically, guys, okay, what if I have a server, okay, and this server is protected by a firewall, okay, and the firewall cannot allow me my ISMB message to be sent, okay? How can I scan this server, okay? And how can I be stealth? You miss Bob and Alice? Okay, Shaza, you are very attached to people. Okay, so we're gonna send you, this time it was Sheila and the Bill. It's okay, maybe you can call it Abdullah and Riham one day, inshallah. Or Abdullah and Shaza. Maybe when inshallah you started to teach your courses, do an Arabic version, Ahmed and Amina or Amina. You can do wherever you want. Okay, so here, guys, I'm saying that sometimes we have a firewall, and the firewall is going to be filtering your traffic, and you don't want this server over here to really have a full captures of your commands that you're sending. Okay, so you started to move from the full scan and the Bing scan to something called more stealth. And we have in the more stealth, there's so many scanning here that is stealth, and the stealth means it will not leave a trace here. It will not leave a log file here saying that the sender was this IP address, the receiver was this IP address, and it's published. So it kills the establishment of the connection. So we have so many scanning. Okay, idle scanning is really a big thing that to explain, but I will explain it later on if we have some times. But again, here we explain sync scan. So I'm sending only the sync scan, XMass scan, and fin scan. Why I'm doing all this, guys? Because sometimes the firewall will block my scanning, but I know the port because I really open an HTTP page here. The port is 80 is open, okay? So what I'm gonna do, instead of saying Bing and trace route, I'm gonna send sync message, and this sync message, I'm gonna send it to all the ports in this computer. And usually, guys, the firewall will not be able to filter the sync. Why? Because the port number sync, it will be filtered when the port is really closed here. So let me show you an example here so to explain what is this all about. So if I moved here, okay, this is a stealth, and the stealth, I mentioned why they called it stealth. So look at this. The attacker will send sync over port 80. Port 80 is open in the firewall because I wanted to serve this web pages, so I cannot close it in the website. So it will reach to Sheila, and Sheila port will reply back, acknowledge, I got your sync, and then the attacker, and instead of sending sync back, acknowledge back, he will send reset, and reset will kill this connection. So Sheila will have nothing in her TCP connection, but here, this guy knows for a fact this port is open. And maybe now by doing this sync, he knows also which version is running on Sheila's computer. So this is why we call it stealth scanning, okay? And here, if he sends sync and then he got reset right away in his face, that means this port is closed. Okay, guys? So this is really. Another one is called XMass, and XMass like a Christmas scan. And the Christmas scan, again, it will send all these flags that we mentioned here before are on. So it will add, push, reset, all, and we'll send it to computer. Computer will get this. Some computer really, when they got the XMass scan, guys, in the long time ago, okay, or even SCADA system, when they get this kind of scan, they cannot really handle it and it crash. Okay, but now most of our Windows operating system and a Linux operating system, they know what kind of this scan, and they don't really crash, or maybe some SCADA system will crash till now. Okay, and here, if I send fin and urging and push at the same time, if no response I got from the servers, okay, it means port is open. Why I do think this kind of scan is not accurate, guys? Because if you have a firewall here, okay, the firewall is you have adjusted, okay, the response of the firewall, you will also get no response, okay, because the firewall will reset this, okay? So this is really back to how the firewall and the network is reacting to this. If you get a reset message, okay, mean that port is closed. But again, I would not really relay an XMass scan, okay? Fin scan is meaning I'm sending a fin message, okay, to the destination. What we mean, I send fin message. Where did I get this from? Again, from here, from the TCP flags. I will come here and I will look for fin. I will add 1 here and the rest is 0. So I'm sending fin message. When I send the fin message to my destination, if I got no response, again, this is port is open, okay? And if I got reset or acknowledge, mean this port is closed. And by the way, in map, guys, in map, they will allow you to do all these scans. According to the switches, you will add after the nmap word. Okay, so nmap can allow you to scan certain ports, so you can add port 80, or you can add a range of ports, exactly, or you can really add a certain range of ports to scan, and really you can really scan a certain kind of scan, like what Naif has sent. If I wanted to really send a fin scan, I will add S and then F after the scan. And again, it's saying it will not work against any kind of version of Windows. So Windows kind of, you know, it's this kind of things will do. Okay. I think right now null scans mean I'm gonna send my scan, guys, with no flags added at all. So the flags all would be zeros. Okay, and I see how the system will act, and accordingly, if we send no flags at all, if I got no response, mean the port is open, and if I get reset, that means the port is closed. Okay, at that time, guys, we will look at the idle scan. Let's just take a break, maybe 25 minutes, and we come back. Abir will explain a demo, and then if I got time, I will come to explain what is idle scan is all about. Okay, guys? So 25 minutes break, okay? And then we'll come back to Abir, and then also if we have time, we'll look at the idle scan and how it works. Okay, guys? Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Recording. اوكي عندنا الباسيف الاكتف من التولز اللي بنستخدمها للاكتف هي النت كات والتريس راوت والبينج to get an information about the target. الباسيف ريكونيسانس هي التولز اللي ممكن نستخدمها عشان ناخذ الانفورميشن passively، ما في كونتاكت مباشر مع التارجت. هي مالتيجو وهارفستر والباسيف فوت برينتينج. دي التولز تبعت الاوسنت. الاوسنت هي ال open source intelligence، هي اوسنت اختصار لها. طيب الاكتيف ريكونيسانس هو فعليا الانيومريشن. الانيومريشن هو الاكتيف ريكونيسانس، هي بروسيس اللي احنا بنبداها عشان نتواصل مباشره مع التارجت سيرفر عشان ناخذ انفورميشن زي اليوزر والهوست والاي بي ادريس والابلكيشن كونفيجريشن والنتورك توبولوجي وكل الانفورميشن اللي احنا ممكن نقدر نجمعها عن التارجت ده بنقدر ناخذها عن طريق الاكتيف ريكونيسانس او الانيومريشن. طيب في سؤال مهم، هل الاكتيف ريكونيسانس ممكن يستخدموا اي اتاكر؟ ممكن يستخدموا اي اتاكر. هل هو legal؟ هل هو الايثيكال هاكر او البنتريشن تيستر ممكن يستخدموا الاكتيف ريكونيسانس؟ البنتريشن تيستر has authorized to make this scan and so yes they can use the active reconnaissance. طيب الايثيكال هاكر هم عندهم different role، هم بيعملوا ما بيتبعوا ميثودولوجي معينه، بيتبعوا كل الاتاك الميكانيزم والتاكتكس تبع الاتاك كويس علشان ياخذوا ريبورت ويرجعوا بيه ساعات للكومبانيز انه دي الويكنسز تبعكم و you should fill this gap. ممكن يعني المفروض انكم انتوا تحلوا المشاكل بتاعتكم دي، وبعد كده بيتفاوضوا معهم انه احنا ممكن نساعدكم عشان نحل المشاكل دي وكده. المهم هم ما عندهم authorized من البدايه to make this scan. يبقى هم مسموح لهم ولا ما مسموح لهم؟ هم ما مسموح لهم ومسموح لهم الاثنين مع بعض. ما مسموح لهم لان هم illegal، ممكن يكون بطريقه illegal وممكن يكون بطريقه legal، يكون في agreement مسبقه انه انتوا كل فتره المفروض انتوا تعملوا السكان ده. طيب بيعملوه علشان بعد كده يقولوا دي الجابس زي ما قلنا ان اللي المفروض دي يحصل لها فيل قبل الاتاكر ما يحصلوا على الفولنربيلتيز ديت. الميكانيزم اللي بنستخدمها عشان الاكتيف ريكونسنس عندي تو ميكانيزم. يا اما هتكون بالسوشيال انجينيرينج اللي هو تبقى تواصل، الهندسه الاجتماعيه يبقى تواصل مع التارجت، بس ما هيبقى مع التارجت كسيرفر، هيبقى تارجت كامبلويز، كانه احنا ننتحل الشخصيه او بالتواصل عن طريق التليفون او نوصل للكومباني نفسها. المهم يبقى في بروسيس بتاعت سوشيال انجينيرينج. او الفوت برينتينج الاكتيف فيرجن تبع الفوت برينتينج عندها تولز كثيره جدا، اهمها واشهرها وافضل واحده فيهم واكثر تول فيهم فعاله هي الان ماب. طيب الوايدلي يوزد اكتيف ريكونسنس تولز، الاكثر تول بمستخدمه بصوره عامه عشان الاكتيف ريكونسنس، عشان نجمع المعلومات عن طريق الاكتيف ريكونسنس والتواصل المباشر مع التارجت. عندنا الميتاسبلويت، عندنا الاوبن فاز، انتوا استخدمتوا الاثنين دول. عندنا الدايركتوري باستر، وعندنا الان ماب، وعندنا الدي ان اس اي نم، وعندنا النسس، وعندنا النكتو. هم تولز كثيره بس مينلي ده الاشهر التولز اللي احنا بنستخدمها. اكثر التولز الكومن تولز اللي مستخدمه في الاكتيف ريكونسنس. طيب ريال اكتيف ريكونسنس اليوم ما هنتكلم بس عن كلام، هو ما بيرميشن. المهم عندنا سايت هندخل عليه، هنعمل له سكان، كل التولز تبع السكان هنجربها، هنشوف، نحاول نجمع داتا عنهم عشان بعد كده نشوف الويكنسز تبعهم، وبعد كده نشوف اذا هم احنا هنديهم فيدباك. بس عموما في الوضع الطبيعي الاتاكرز ما بيدوا فيدباك، بيستخدموا الويكنسز تو اتاك وتو جين الاكسس. ديل جايز؟ طب الكلام اللي قلناه ده في حاجه كانت فيه ما واضحه؟ علشان قبل ما نبتدي البروسيس بتاعت السكان نوضحها. all of you. Okay, that is good. طيب هناخد koshite.sd، هنطلع عندنا ويب سايتس كثيرة جدا احنا ممكن نستخدمها علشان نعمل الاسكانز تبعنا، وممكن نعمل الاسكان ثرو كالي. هاخد حاجات من هنا وهنرجع لكالي عشان ناخد حاجات ثانية من كالي. نعمل DNS تشيكر، من اهم الويب سايتس اللي بتعمل تشيك للدي ان اس. عنده الدي ان اس سيرفر، انه دي ان اس ريجسترد وين، على كلاود فلير ولا اوبن دي ان اس ولا كواد 9 ولا authoritative DNS. المهم الكومون جوجل. most of DNS registered on Google. التفاصيل اللي مفروض ان هي تجينا، هو ما عايز يجينا. No idea why. It's okay. الدي ان اس تولز، دي ان اس تشيكر في تولز كثيره جدا، هي هنا ممكن تلاقوها كلها. all of tools. هنشوف كل التولز بيعمل تشيك لل HTTP header، وبيعمل تشيك للويب سايت اوبريشن، وبيعمل NS lookup، وبيعمل CNAME lookup. دي كل التولز اللي بيحتاجوها عشان السكاننج او الاكتيف سكان او الانيومريشن. طيب واحده من التولز ديت هي اوبن OS تشيك OS. احنا بنحط له ما بتشتغل معي باليو ار ال، بتشتغل معي بس بالاي بي ادريس. سوري، غالبا هو هنا ما هيشتغل معايا بالدي ان اس، هيشتغل معايا بالاي بي ادريس. ما عارفه مشكلته، هو ما راضي يدينا نتيجه هنا، مو مشكله. نعمل تشيك للاوبريتنج سيستم للاي بي ادريس ده، بيقول لي ان السيرفيس اللي طالعه هي سيرفيس تبعت اباتشي، معناه هو ويب سيرفر واحنا اوريدي عارفين ويب سيرفر، بس عاوزين بفرضا ان احنا ما عارفين حاجه، قال ان هي سيرفيس بتاعت اباتشي. اوكي، اباتشي معنى كده احنا محتاجين نعمل سكان. سكان لمنه؟ سكان للويب سيرفر. طيب جينا عملنا سكان ذا ويب سيرفر، ذا ويب vulnerability سكان هي ويب vulnerability سكان. دي تولز بتاعت penetration test tools، ده سايت بتلاقي فيه كل التولز بتاعت البنتريشن تيستنج. واحده من التولز كانت ويب vulnerability سكان، واحنا اخترناها وعملنا السكان اوريدي للسايت. نجي نشوف الريبورت، بيدينا التفاصيل، بيقول لك ده هو كوشايد دوت اس دي، كانت عنده ميديوم السيفيريتي بتاعت السكان او الريزلت تبع السكان، بيقول لك عنده ميديوم وعنده هاي، هم هاي وميديوم ولو وانفورميشن. عنده واحده ميديوم هي دي الكاونتر تبعه واحده، وعنده 8 لو وعنده 10 انفورم او انفورماتيف. هنجي نشوف التفاصيل. السكان ده احنا عملناه امبارح يوم 26 الساعه 7 بالليل. طب نجي نشوف الفايندينجز تبعه. واحده واحده نبدا نراجع فيهم. all of them هم 19. نجي نشوف الميديوم. عندنا دائما في الريسك الهاي والميديوم supposed to fill immediately علشان هم الاثنين critical vulnerability. نجي نشوف الاكتف. send me message. Yes, scan for the web server. اوكي، قال لك ان الميديوم سيفيريتي هي عباره عن ايه؟ عباره عن انه عنده دايركتري باين appeared. الدايركتري ده هو احنا عرفنا المسار كده بتاع الفايلات بتاعته عامل كيف، والمسار ده في نفسه احنا لو خدناه زي ما هو كوبي بيست ومشينا فتحناه هنلقى فيه داتا. ده ميس كونفيجريشن ودي vulnerability، ممكن احنا عن طريقه نقدر نوصل لملفات ثانيه جوا السيرفر. دي تفاصيل. ده كود قاعد عندهم appeared، احنا ما عارفين انه بيعمل ايه، بس داتا احنا ممكن نحتفظ بيها، بنحتاجها في وقت من الاوقات نقدر نرجع لها نستفيد منها. طيب رجعنا خطوه واحده لورا في الدايركتري. ده دايركتري موجود عنده في السيرفر بتاعه كده سلاش وشايت اسيتس فندر. طب رجعنا لفندر. فندر ستيل اكسسبل، واحنا اذرز لو خدتوا بالكم احنا لا يوزر ولا جروب ولا حتى يوزر في السيستم، احنا اذرز اوتسايد. الحاجه دي موجوده publicly، واحنا خدنا البيرميشنز المفروض تبقى عامله ازاي، صح؟ يبقى هم عندهم ميس كونفيجريشن، والميس كونفيجريشن هو vulnerability وممكن الاتاكر يعتمد عليها عشان هي ويكنسز على التارجت. دي كلها دايركتوريز، وكل الدايركتوريز دي appeared وممكن نقدر ندخل عليها ونشوف ايه الدنيا فيها واللي حاصل فيها. يعني احنا نشوف. طب كده فيندر متاح، اسيتس المفروض ان اسيتس كمان متاحه. دي الدايركتوريز اللي موجوده جوا اسيتس. لو طلعنا من اسيتس، دي كلها خطوات احنا بنعملها عشان نشوف الدنيا فيها ايه وايه اللي حاصل عند الناس دي. كده دخلنا الويب سايت. يبقى سلاش فار اللي هنفهمه من هنا سلاش فار سلاش www، وبعد كده جوا اتش تي جواها كوشايد، جوا كوشايد في فيندر، ده كله اكسسبل للكاستمر. كل ده كل ده accessible. ودي weaknesses بانت عندنا لما احنا عملنا سكان لكوشايد. طيب الايشوز الباقيه اللي هي اللو، ممكن عايزه لما احنا نجي نشتغل في GRC بنقول لك انه اللو سيفيريتي ممكن تاخذ عندنا 6 شهور عشان نحلها. الهاي والميديوم المفروض immediately ان هم يتحلوا. طب دول خلال 6 شهور المفروض ان هم يتحلوا. ده ما مس كونفيجريشن بس، ده ايشو، دي vulnerability. طب نيجي نشوف اللو. الميس كونفيجريشن حاجه اقل خطوره من الميديوم، او نقول لك ميس كونفيجريشن vulnerability. طب عندهم ميسنج بتاع هيدر، السكيورتي بوليسي هيدر المفروض يعمل له كونفيجريشن علشان لما يجي الريتريف باك المفروض هنا حاطط لك التفاصيل، بتلقوا في الريبورت كل التفاصيل واللي انت ممكن تستفيدوه وايه المعنى بتاع الفولنربيلتي او الميس كونفيجريشن اللي موجود عندنا. Can lead to serious attack according to yes. Total agree. نايف sorry. Yes. الميس كونفيجريشن مشكله، بس ميس كونفيجريشن من ميس كونفيجريشن بيختلف شويه. اللي موجود عندنا هنا كان ميديوم اللي هي هاي سيفيريتي نعتبرها، او سيريس سيفيريتي. اللو ممكن ياخذ وقت اطول شويه عشان تبليت، بس هم كلهم عباره عن ايشوز والاتاكرز يقدر يستخدمون علشان تو اتاك التارجت. وممكن ياخذ داتا، هنا ممكن يحصل بريتشنج للداتا اللي عندهم. احنا ما عارفين كم الداتا او كم البيانات اللي موجود عندهم على الباث ده. ممكن تبقى عندهم critical information موجوده عندهم او secret information حسب الكلاسيفيكيشن اللي هم حاطينه، وممكن تبقى هنا في داتا بريتشز. حصل ليه؟ حصل لانه كان عندهم مشكله بتاعتكم ميس كونفيجريشن. يبقى كل الحاجات مع بعض بتترابط عندنا. طب نيجي نشوف السكان. احنا عملنا ريتريف، هنعمل هنا نعمل NS lookup وشايت ST. عمل ريتريف وادانا الاي بي ادريس تبع السيرفر. كده احنا خدنا الاي بي ادريس، بقى عندنا اي بي ادريس. طب هل هي سنجل نود ولا كلاستر نود؟ يعني هل هو سيرفر واحد بس عندهم ولا عندهم اكثر من سيرفر؟ sometimes الاتاكرز بيكونوا محتاجين ايه؟ محتاجين ان هم to get more information لما يكونوا في الظل. اي انه معناها انه ما محتاجين ان هم تو اتاك المين سيرفر. لو عندهم السيرفيس دي قايمه على 2 نودز او قايمه على هي كلاستر قايمه على سيرفرين، وعندهم سيرفر شغال اكتف باسيف، النود الاكتف بنخليها وبنعمل تارجتنج للنود الباسيف، لان هي بتكون ايدنتيكال للنود الاكتف. بيكون عندنا نسختين، واحده اكتف واحده باسيف، والاثنين مطابقتين تماما. جست ان كيس حصل اي فيلير في النود الاكتف بنقوم السيرفيس تبعتنا من النود الباسيف. في الحالة دي الاتاكر بيحتاج انه يكون في الظل عشان to get more information from internal device عشان يحدث ضرر اكبر. يبقى هو عشان يعمل الحاجة دي محتاج يدخل النود الباسيف من النود الاكتف، فبيحاول يجمع معلومات هل هي حاليا في الوقت الحالي نود واحدة ولا اكثر من نود موجودة عندنا. طب عندنا اي بي ادريس عرفناه، عندنا هوست نيم احنا عارفينه. هنجي نعمل حاجتين اثنين. الحاجتين الاثنين اللي احنا محتاجين، دقيقة واحدة بس معلش. كده عندنا اي بي ادرس وعندنا دومين نيم. طيب خلينا نعمل ان ماب احنا عملناه كده. طب اوكي، كده عملنا ان اس لوك اب، جمعنا الاي بي ادرس حطيناه، بنحط بلان، نعمل تشيك ليست. الاتاكر بيعملوا تشيك ليست، كل الانفورميشن اللي هم عايزين يجمعوها واللي هم محتاجين ليها، وبعد كده في اديشنال انفورميشن برضه بيحتاجوها وبيكونوا جمعوها ما كانوا حاطينها في البلان بتاعتهم من الاول. البلان بتاعتنا تو جيت الاي بي، جمعنا الاي بي، عملنا ان اس لوك اب. هنعمل حاجه ثانيه، عايزين نعرف الدايركتوري ده هو برضه بس كوشايت. هسه عرفنا عنده دايركتوري ثاني، هل هو سيرفيس واحده بس اللي هي الاباتشي قايمه على الاباتشي بتاعه، ولا عندهم اكثر من سيرفيس قايمه على نفس السيرفر؟ نجي نعمل دي ان اس دمبستر. اللينك ده اللينك ده بيديني كل التفاصيل لكوشايت، كل الهيراركي بتاعت الفايلز اللي موجوده وكل السيرفرز او السيرفيسز اللي طالعه عليه. قال لنا انه في اكثر من نود. عنده النود الاولى اللي اسمها NS1، وعنده النود الثانيه اسمها NS2، وعنده النود الثالثه، وعنده النود الرابعه. دي قايمه على الاي بي ادرس ده، معناتها هي دي النود الاكتف. احنا لما عملنا ريتريف عملنا NS لوك اب، قال لنا انه النود بتاعتنا ده الاي بي ادرس بتاعها. نرجع معلش عشان تو جيت انفورم. الاي بي 212 72 165 76 هو ده نفس الاي بي ادرس ده. معنى كده والاي بيز الباقيه ما ظهرت عندنا، معناتها هم دول كلهم ما اكتف. هم موجودين، هم كونفيجرد، بس هم كلهم قاعدين في الباسيف مود. هي دي الاكتف نود. يبقى كده الاتاكر لو هو بيفكر في احداث ضرر اكبر ممكن يدخل على النودز الباقيه، لانه كلهم حيكون ايدنتيكال لنفس النود. طيب اللوكيشن موجود على جيرماني، عاملين ديبلويمنت في جيرماني. الاي بي ادريسز دي بتاعت النود الباقيه. طيب نيجي ننزل، قال لك عنده ميل. السيرفيس بتاع الميل قايم على نفس السيرفر اللي هو 76. عنده ترافيك بوليسي، ترافيك بوليس موجوده، سيرفيس عنده موجوده قايمه على نفس السيرفر. كل السيرفيسز اللي عنده طلعت قايمه على نفس الاي بي ادرس لو خدنا بالنا هنا في الكولوم ده. طيب عنده حاجه اسمها سيرفيس موجوده، عنده اكزيكتيف، عنده بروجكت، عنده ترافيك، مقومه على www او من غير www هتشتغل. طيب تعالوا نشوف، قال لك هنا عايزين نعرف الهيدر تبع ده. قال لي الكونكشن كلوزد، ما هقدر اخذ هيدر للسيرفيس دي او لللينك ده. طيب نمشي نشوف واحد ثاني بروجكت، علشان انا جربت بروجكت. نشوف الهيدر تبع بروجكت. المفروض انه السيرفيس دي كلها بانت عندي هنا، حنوريكم انها بانت بتبين عندنا كيف في اللينكس، او ظهر عندي هنا الهيدر تبع السيرفر ده. اللينك بتاع السيرفيس اللي اسمها بروجكت. تعالوا ناخده، احنا بنجمع في معلومات صح؟ نيجي ناخده ونطلع هنا ونحطه. واو، معلومة جديدة ما كانت عندنا. احنا ما عارفين انه عندهم سيرفيس ثانيه وطلعت عندهم سيرفيس واكتف وشغاله. يبقى احنا محتاجين ليوزر نيم وباسورد. يبقى احنا هنحط اللينك ده عندنا، بقى عندنا تو لينكس موجودين، koshai.sd وعندنا project.koshai.sd. الاثنين موجودين على نفس اللينك كده. الاثنين نحاول تو اتاك اي واحده منهم هتدخلنا على السيرفر. هنشوف بعد كده. طيب نرجع، لو عندنا واحده ثانيه نقدر ناخذ فيها هيدر كمان. دي ادتنا هيدر صح؟ login، لا ما ادتنا هيدر. keep alive، no. location index، لو دي ما ادتنا هيدر، دي ما فيها هيدر علشان ان احنا ندخل عليها survey executive. شوف لو فيها هيدر بعد شويه هيقفل علشان هي حاجه مفتوحه بس. اوكي مو مشكله. حاليا احنا عندنا two links. Through this process we should document everything. Yes you should. المفروض قلت لك عندك تشيك ليست، كل الانفورميشن اللي انت المفروض تجمعيها وتحطيها في مكانه واحده تشيك ليست، اول ما تجمعي كل حاجه ترجعي تحطيها عشان يبقى عندك بعدين دوكيومنت كامل، عشان هتحللي كل البيانات، هتعرفي مين منها كانت الاكيوريت ومين منها اللي كانت inaccurate. حاليا احنا بنجمع في المعلومات، عندنا معلومات اللي باسيف بنحللها بطريقه ادق عشان نعرف الحقيقيه منها ولا، والاكتف لانه دي اكتف احنا خدناها اكتفلي من التارجت مباشره، بيبقى عندها وضع شويه مختلف. بس ايوه صح، المفروض يبقى عندك دوكيومنت انت بتجمعي فيه كل الحاجات بتاعتك. طيب نرجع لكالي، هنعمل حاجه ثانيه، DNS enum. DNS enum دي تول بتساعدنا عشان نعرف. هسه من شويه احنا شفنا التفاصيل بتاعت اللينكات الثانيه اللي موجوده عندنا باللينك في نفسه، وعرفنا انه في سيرفيسز ثانيه شغاله على نفس السيرفر. هنا حنشوف مور سيرفيسز اللي هي فعلا اكتف. في سيرفيس ثانيه ممكن تبقى شغاله زي اي باي مثلا، من شويه عملنا لها تشيك لكن كانت قال لك كونكتد كلوز لانها هي ما اكتف ما رننج. هنشوف الرننج فعليا هي اي سيرفيس عن طريق الكوماند او التول اللي اسمها DNS enum. كل الاي بيز اللي موجوده هتوريني ايه اللي موجود وايه اللي ما موجود. قال لك انه عندهم ميل على السيرفر ده، ميل على السيرفر ده احنا ما عارفين اللينك تبع الميل، بس بعد كده بحبه اجتهاد هنقدر نعرف الميل تبع السيرفر، اللينك تبعه بالضبط هو ايه. طب دي احنا عملناه اصلا. عندهم ما عندهم اي بي ثانيه شغاله على نفس الرينج بتاع 212 72 165، هم فاتحين فول رينج 24 في حين انه ما مستخدمين منه ولا حاجه، بس مستخدمين السبعه 76 بس هو مفتوح كفول رينج. دي برضه مشكله ثانيه، المفروض انه ما يتفتح الفول رينج، نحاول نقلل الرينجز المفتوحه عندنا في الويب سيرفر بصوره عامه. لو اتفتح specific IP it is more enough. بس هم هنا حاطين البلان بتاعتهم عشان عندهم اكثر من بروجكت هم قايمين على نفس السيرفر، ميبي بعدين عايزين كل سيرفيس تبقى طالعه على اي بي ادرس مختلف. طب واي وين هي ديت. قال لك عندهم حاجه اسمها اوتو كفر كوشايت .sd قايمه على نفس السيرفر، وعندهم حاجه اسمها عندهم FTP سيرفر قايم على نفس السيرفر، وعندهم الميل سيرفر قايم على نفس السيرفر، وكوشايت وبروجكت ده اللي احنا خدنا اللينك بتاعه من شويه، وعندهم ويب ميل سيرفيس، وعندهم كوشايت بتعمل ريتريف ب 2 ways، يا www او كوشايت على طول من غير www، يعني الاثنين شغالين عندهم. طيب احنا خدنا بروجكت هندور بطريقتنا على ميل تاكر، يعني مش احنا في الوقت الحالي اخذنا بروجكت هندور على ويب ميل وهندور على FTP. عرفنا هنا عندهم FTP، بس FTP قايمه على اي بورت. sometimes لو عندهم ناس تبع security ممتازين هنغير البورت بتاع FTP من الديفولت عندنا 21، المفروض انه احنا نغيره في الوضع الطبيعي، بنغيره او بنعمل له نات بورت عشان هو شغال ببابليك اي بي ادرس. لما جينا عملنا سكان للساده كوشايت، اول حاجه عمل لنا سكان طلع لنا الاي بي ادرس. من الان ماب لوحدها بنقدر نطلع الاي بي ادرس، بنقدر نطلع البورتس اللي مفتوحه، بنقدر نطلع الاوبريتنج سيستم، بنقدر نطلع السيرفيس اللي جاي مع البورت، لانه في sometimes بيكون عندهم مانجد بورت او بورت ما موجوده هي اساسا كونفيجر كديفولت سيرفيس، بيبقى هم مقومين السيرفيس بتاعتهم على بورت هم عملوا لها كونفيجريشن بالطريقه بتاعتهم، او الديفولت بورت شالوا غيروها لبورتس ثانيه، فاحنا بنكون ما عارفين البورت دي بتظهر عندنا ان هي اوبن بورت، بس احنا ما عارفين السيرفيس بتاعتها هي اللي قايمه عليها ايه. في اللحظه ديت ان ماب بوضح لنا السيرفيس اللي طالع على البورت ده. طيب خدنا الهوست نيم او السيرفيس نيم، خدنا الاي بي ادرس، خدنا بعد كده البورتس، قال لنا انه عندنا بورتس كثيره مفتوحه، نيجي نفتحها هنا، خلينا واحده واحده. عندهم بورت 20 هو كلوز بس configured. البورت لما يكون closed اصلا no need to be configured، المفروض يشيلوه برا، بس ما مشكله هو closed. عندهم 21 FTP. الفيرجن تبع الاف تي بي بتاعتهم هي اسمها pure FTPD. عندهم 22 مقفول. هنا بنفهم انه هو اصلا ده لينكس، بس هنتاكد كمان شويه. طيب عندهم بورت 25 سوري، هو SMTP بورت اللي هو ده بورت بتاع الميل، والبورت بتاع الميل عباره عن ويكنس بورت، والاس ام تي بي احنا ممكن نستخدمها للاتاك، والاف تي بي برضه انه يكون مفتوح وببورت 21 برضه هي سيرفيس احنا ممكن نقدر نستخدمها للاتاك. عندهم RSFTP مقفول. عندهم الدومين نيم سيرفيس قايمه على بورت 53 لانه الدي ان اس بتاعهم شغال. الشغاله عندهم الدي ان اس قايمه على السيرفيس او السيرفيس اللي اسمها بايند. طيب في اللينكس اخر فيرجنز من 6 واحنا طالعين 6 7 8 9 كل الفيرجنز ديت من ريد هات انتربرايز لينكس هم شغالين بالبايند. السيرفيس بتاعت الدومين اسمها بايند، ما اسمها دي ان اس زي الفيرجنز القديمه. عندهم الاباتشي وعندهم بوب 3. اول ما هم عملوا بوب 3 اس المفروض يقفلوا بوب 3 عشان هي ويكنس بتبقى موجوده. اول ما هم فتحوا اي ماب 3 اس المفروض يقفلوا الاي ماب من غير اس. هنا عندهم اس ام تي بي سكيور، عندهم اس ام تي بي انسكيور. بورت 25 المفروض انه هو يتقفل. طيب نيجي نشوف التوبولوجي تبع النتورك بتاعتهم. انا ما باينه، هو ليه ما بيعمل؟ ميبي يمكن عشان انا موجوده عندهم هنا في السودان ما محتاجه لي راوتس كثيره عشان اوصله، بس حنعمل تريس راوت للاي بي ادريس كمان شويه. طيب هوست ستاتس ما دائما هنا بنقدر احنا نعتمد عليها، بس هو اصلا رننج احنا عارفينه. not available ما مديني كل التفاصيل تبعه. هو شايت يوزر بس مديني الاسم بتاعه. طيب نرجع للمين سيشن بتاعت الانماب. نجي نازلين واحده واحده. عرفنا البورتس اللي مفتوحه. جاء عمل سكان بتاع سن to get more. طيب لحد هنا بيجمع بس انه ده الاي بي ادريس دي الكومبليتد، هم بيعمل سكان لحد ما هنا جاء قال انه البورت ده مقفول والبورت ده مفتوح. قال لي هنا عندهم ويب ميل وعندهم ميل، عندهم حاجات كثيره مفتوحه. براجع الببليك كي هو RSA 24 لحد ما جه هنا قال لي البورت بتاع 53 اللي هو بتاع الدي ان اس انه هو مفتوح وقايم على سيرفيس اسمها بايند، والسيرفيس دي موجوده على السيرفر بتاعهم اللي هو ريد هات انتربرايز لينكس 7. هنا احنا عرفنا الاوبريتنج سيستم اللي شغال عندهم ريد هات انتربرايز لينكس 7. تحديدا الفيرجن دي موجوده على ريد هات انتربرايز 7. كده احنا عرفنا تفاصيل، عرفنا الاي بي ادريس والهوست نيم، عرفنا بعض السيرفيسز اللي طالعه على السيرفر ده، عرفنا انه عندنا هم باسيف، عندنا 3 باسيف نودز وعندنا 1 اكتف، واحده بس اللي موجوده على الاكتف، وعرفنا عندهم الاوبريتنج سيستم، وعرفنا عندهم سيرفيس ثانيه، وعرفنا واحده من اليو ار ال بتاعت السيرفيس الثانيه. دي التفاصيل بتاعت السيرتيفيكيت بتاعتهم. قال لي انه عندهم الميل الدي ان اس قايم عندهم في السيرفر بتاع الميل اللي هو اصلا ده السيرفر بتاعنا. دي التفاصيل اللي احنا خدناها من شايت لما عملنا لها ماب. طيب هاجي اراجع حاجه ثانيه دي انا بعملها بس هي لسه ما خلصت. دي الداتابيز. عندهم سيرفر وعندهم يوزر نيم وعندهم سيرفيس اسمها بروجكت طالع على السيرفر ده وفيها يوزر نيم وباسورد. اليوزر نيم والباسورد بيتحفظوا، معناتها عندي داتابيز. صح ولا لا؟ That is make sense. username, password, services، عندهم payment channel، عندهم حاجات، معناتها في database. أنا هعمل سكان للdatabase. هنا أنا بعمل سكان للdatabase، السكان ما خلص، اللي هي بقول له SQL map. الكوماند تبعنا SQL map wizard، وبعد كده بديه ال URL. بتشوفوا ولا لا؟ بيطلب مني ال URL، بديه ال URL، ما بديه اي تفاصيل ثانيه لان ما بعرف تفاصيل ثانيه. يا دوب انا عايزه اعمل سكان، بيقول لي عايزه الانجكشن بتاعك يكون شنو، عايزه هارد، عايزه ميديا، يعني السكان بتاعي هيعملوا الليفل بتاعه الريسك. اخترت هارد. الانيوميريشن بتاعي يكون لهم كلهم، ولا بيزك ولا انترميديت، للكرنت يوزر والبانر والET/ETC بتاعتهم. طيب بعد كده هو بدا السكان بتاعه، لسه ما خلص بس هو بيعمل في السكان. طيب عندنا تول ثانيه، خلي ده يخلص براحته. عندي تول اسمها دايركتري باستر او DIR باستر. DIR باستر لما اعمل لها رن بتفتح معايا GUI تبعها. المفروض هنا يحصل ايه؟ المفروض اني انا اديه ده، بيديني التفاصيل كويس بتاعت الدايركتوريز اللي موجوده على السيرفر ده. كل الدايركتوريز اللي موجوده ومتاحه على السيرفر ده. براوز list info. انا ما بعرف الليست انفو، ما بعرف البراوز. يا بيور قلنا له list based brute force، ولو بيور brute force عشان ما عندي اي اوبشنز انا اديها له. ما عندي اي حاجه ثانيه هغيرها له، بس قول له ستارت. هيبدا يعمل سكان ويعمل سيرشنج للدايركتوري اللي موجوده. عندهم حاجه اسمها AR، عندهم assets، وعندهم assets image. ديل وين؟ ديل في سلاش كوشايت. يعني هيبدا لي من أو قبل كده ما في. احنا هنعرف انه سلاش اسيتس مثلا، احنا ما عارفين اللي قبلها، ما قاعده في الروت مباشره، لكن قاعده وين؟ قاعده هنا. لو فاكرين احنا هنا قبل سلاش كوشايت image. يا شباب لما نيجي نعمل سكان احنا محتاجين نشغل VPN، ما هنعمل سكان without VPN. وحاولوا تشتغلوا بالبراوزر السكيور. دي assets ودي image اللي هي موجودة عندنا هنا، اللي هو بدأ يعمل لها سكان. دي assets. بعد كده هيجيب لي كل الحاجات بتاعتها تفاصيلها واحدة واحدة، كل الدايركتوري اللي موجودة عنده على السيرفر ده كلها information بيجمعها الاتاكر عشان ياخد منها تفاصيل هو هيحتاجها بعدين بعد الاناليسيز اللي هيعمله. عرفنا انه عندنا اكثر من IP address active passive node. What is? Okay. عندنا scan عندنا active و passive nodes. عندنا run node واحدة. Sorry. دي IP دي الفولدرات اللي موجودة. لا ما هي دي. سوري. دي التولز اللي موجودة. نعمل تريس راوت عشان نعرف التوبولوجي بتاعت النتورك بتاعتنا. مني أنا محتاج لكم firewall عشان أنا أعديهم عشان أصل للسيرفر ده. واحدة من الحاجات المهمة الاتاكرز بيحتاجوها to make trace route. أو خلينا نعمله هنا trace route. التريس راوت بيمشي لي 30 واحد كماكسيمم، بيعمل لي 30 تيست كماكسيمم. أنا عارفة الدنيا ممكن تبقى عاملة دوشة. بس في العادة لما الاتاكر يبقى عاوز يعمل سكان ما بيمشي فيز بروسيس بس بياخد الداتا بتاعته او الانفورميشن بتاعته في وقت واحد. بيحاول يمشي اكثر من كوماند عشان ياخد كل الانفورميشن في اقل وقت ممكن. انا عايز الاوتبوت. وهنا جاب اوتبوت ما عمل اي حاجه، طلعني مني انا على طول بس ما جاب تفاصيل. ممكن يكونوا مقفلين التريس ما اقدر اشوف يمشي قد ايه. كده احنا عرفنا الباسيف سكان، عرفنا الاكتف سكان. عندنا تولز ثانيه بتاعت enumeration هنبدا نشتغل عليها بكره. او سوري، في حاجه احنا عرفنا الويكنس بتاعت النتورك بتاعت قلنا عندهم ميديوم so sorry I have no idea my session was disconnected, so just let me to share with you my screen. Do you hear me? Can you show my screen? اوكي. اتكلمنا عن الفولنربيلتي بتاعت الميس كونفيجريشن لما عملنا اسكان للويب سيرفر. عملنا كمان اسكان ما للويب سيرفر بس للنتورك عشان نعرف النتورك فولنربيلتي. احنا عملنا سكان للنتورك وعرفنا انه عندهم بورت 21 مفتوح، يبقى دي ويكنس. عرفنا عندهم بورتس ثانيه مفتوحه عندهم الاس ام تي بي مفتوح وانسكيور ودي ويكنس اللي هو ده البورت بتاع الريلاي بتاع الايميل. وعندهم بورتس ثانيه بتاعت الاي ماب وبتاعت البوب 3 الاثنين انسكيور ومفتوحات وبرده دي مشكله ثانيه. عاده في السكيورتي احنا محتاجين الليست بورت اللي احنا محتاجينها هو بس هي اللي تكون مفتوحه، باقي البورتس كلها supposed to be closed. طيب لما عملنا vulnerability scan للسيرفر بتاع كوشايت طلعنا بايه؟ طلعنا بانه ما عندهم high severity لكن عندهم برضو medium severity وعندهم 11 severity information او info severity sorry. Oh my goodness, what's this? اوكي، نجي نشوف الفولنربيلتي اللي موجوده. قال انه عندنا vulnerability موجوده على ISC bind 9.11.4p2. لو فاكرين احنا قلنا البايند هي السيرفيس بتاعت الدي ان اس. قال لنا عندنا vulnerability هي medium severity اللي المفروض انها هي تتحل على طول، بس ما عندنا vulnerability واحده، عندنا vulnerability وعندنا واحده بسيفيريتي 6.9، واحده بسيفيريتي 5 و5 و5 و4 3. عندنا سيفيريتيز كتير، عندنا vulnerabilities كثيره ممكن يستخدمها الاتاكر to attack this target through this service. الفيرشن دي من السيرفيس تبع البايند هي vulnerable version. الحل بتاعها انه يعملوا change، يعملوا upgrade يا اما للكيرنل يا اما للسيرفيس تبع البايند. لو خدنا التفاصيل ترجعوا بكل واحده منهم. انا ممكن اعمل شير معاكم للاوتبوت ده عشان to analyze the vulnerability وتعرفوا اكثر عنها و how can we can use this vulnerability او this CVEs to attack the target. كيف الاتاكر ممكن يستخدموا الفولنربيلتيز دي. ما بكره، يمكن بعد بكره نبدا نتكلم عن انه الفولنربيلتيز كيف نحللها وكيف احنا نشوف الويكنسز او الطريقه اللي احنا ممكن نستخدمها to get access to the target through this vulnerability. حاليا احنا جمعنا انه عنده vulnerabilities بتاعت نتورك، عنده مشكله بتاعت سيرفيس، ويكنس في سيرفيس، في فيرجن معين من سيرفيس، وعرفنا انه عنده misconfiguration، عنده appeared path. ديال الاثنين medium severity. Got it guys؟ شوف التريس راوت عمل ايه؟ هي كانت وين؟ Not here. Oh my goodness. ايه ده؟ service IP. طب ما احنا من شوية عملنا تريس راوت. مشكلة، نرجع نعمله مرة ثانية. في لينكس ما باين عندنا أي حاجة، ما قادرين نعمل تريس راوت. نشوف تريس راوت في مكان ثاني إذا ممكن يدينا اوتبوت أو لا، بس هو على الأغلب لا، على الأغلب هم قافلين التريس راوت تبعهم. Oh, by the way, I think I have a problem. My device was hanged. No idea what. I think من اللي أنا بعمله فيه يعني. خلاص الجهاز عندي علق. لا ده ما راضي يفتح أي حاجة.
Okay, Abir, can I take over here? I will explain to them how Scan is working
yes,
until your computer.
finished.
You explain Scanning is already?
Yes.
Okay, great. So
I use
so I just wanted to
many tools to make together data and show them.
No, I'm saying Scanning. If you allow me to share one thing. Have you explained the steps of Scanning here?
No.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to explain for them the Scanning. Meanwhile, try to fix the issues with your computer, okay? And I think by the time we finish the Scanning, guys, we'll be off for the break. Okay? So if you guys allow me to just to take over here and explain what is ideal scanning is all about. What is ideal scanning here is all about, guys, is ideal scanning here, if you can see, it's one of these types of stealth scanning. So it's really related to stealth scanning. And what the attacker really wanted to do in this case, can you guys see my screen first?
Yes.
Okay, so what the attacker was trying to do here, guys, is because we mentioned the scanning is gonna send packets, okay, and these packets are being basically sent to the target, and you will get a response back, okay. But in ideal scanning, the attacker really doesn't want to be involved at all. So he is using a zombie machine, okay. And what is a zombie machine? And I'll explain what is the zombie machine. So let's just jump to the ideal scanning. I just wanted to remind you about something before also explain the ideal scanning. If you guys review with me the TCP header here, we mentioned that something in the TCP header, it will be, it's called IB ID, okay? And the IB ID basically is something called IB identification. And this IB identification will be used in the ideal scanning. So let me show you where exactly it will fit. So let's just jump to ideal scanning and let's explain it. So the ideal scanning consists of multiple ports. First of all, we need to know some things about ideal scanning. First of all, the attacker will send a packet called sync ACK packet. Okay, he's not gonna send, and the zombie basically, guys, is a machine that the attacker will use to do the scan on behalf. Okay, so how this is possible? Okay, so first of all, the zombie is any machine in the internet. It's either the attacker has a control over this machine or no. Okay, and the attacker, what he will do, he will send a message called send ACK packet to the zombie or to the zombie machine. Usually, when you get sync ACK packet, you say, okay, that's strange. Usually, I'm getting sync. I'm now getting sync ACK message. This is different, which is not. I'm not really expecting. So I'm gonna send back a reset to this connection because I don't know who is sending me sync ACK. Because you usually get sync ACK if you, for example, send a sync, but you're getting sync ACK now and you never send a sync. That's what the attacker, so the zombie will send, or this machine, or the target machine, or a victim, let's say the victim machine, will send, sorry, I don't know you, I'm gonna reset this connection. Along when he set the connection, guys, he's gonna send something called IB identification. And the IB identification, guys, is stand for IB identification. And why there's something called IB identification? Because there's something called fragment. Usually when I send data over the internet, every time I send a packet, it will give me a sequence number for this packet. So what happened here, when every IB packet is sent to the internet, it will have something called fragment identification number. Okay, and this fragment identification number is always increasing because we are always sending messages outside. So over here, guys, the zombie not expecting the sync ACK. Why? Because the zombie or the victim machine never sent a sync to this machine. So why he's getting sync ACK? So what he will do, he will send a reset packet. So he's gonna send a reset packet over here, and along with the reset packet, he will disclose, okay, his IB identification number, which is in this case, guys, this number. I just wanted you to focus on this number for a second. So I got the reset packet, so there's no connection anymore. And I got this number, which is 30,001, okay, 337. Okay, still, the target machine, we didn't even touch it yet. We are right now we're using a victim machine, and this victim machine, I will tell you what is it, okay? Analyze the RSCT packet from the zombie machine, and again, we really need to focus on this part of the IB ID. Okay, so this is the first part of the ideal scan. Okay, what is the second part, guys? The second part is the attacker will spoof the IP address here because he knows the IP address of the victim machine. So let's move to the second part. So the attacker now, guys, just let me make this a little bit clear and big so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. This is a spoofing attack. I will explain how is spoofing attack. So now the attacker will spoof the victim machine, okay, IP address. So I know the victim machine IP address. I'm gonna send now a normal sync packet to the server. Okay, guys, I'm gonna send now a normal sync packet to the server by spoofed victim machine. Okay, and I'm gonna talk to a port 80. Okay, I don't know if port 80 is open or no, but I will see. So what happened when the target machine got, guys, port 80? There is two cases here. If port 80 is up and running and he got a sync message, he will reply with sync acknowledge, okay, over this IP address. But which IP address? The victim IP address. Why? Because the attacker is basically spoofing his IP. So the response will not, if this port is open, let's say the first case, the port is open, port 80 is open, so the target machine now will reply back by sync ACK, and right now the sync ACK coming to mean to the victim machine here over here. Okay, the victim machine will say, okay, sorry, but I never send you sync to start with. So why are you sending me a sync ACK? So he will reset the connection. He will send a reset connection. And again, look at this. The ID has been increased. If you remember, guys, from the last time, it was 31,337. Okay. Now when he reply back by reset message, it will be 38. Okay. Again, the attacker right now is completely stealth for this target. Why? Because this target, even if we're monitoring the target, the IP address scan is coming from the zombie, and that's why I'm sending sync ACK to the zombie. Okay, why I'm sending the sync ACK to the zombie, guys? Because this is spoofed IP. Usually, what happened is when the target will reply back, it will go to the original IP address or to the internet. Okay, guys, and that's why this guy is sending reset, and he increased his IP ID fragmentation with number 1. That means this is reset number 38. Okay. Now the attacker, guys, what will do? What if the port is closed? This is the first case. Okay. When the port is closed, when I send over to the port 80 is closed. Okay, what happened? The target will send reset to the zombie. Okay, guys. But in this reset, he will not add any IBD. So he will add the IBD of the target, but the zombie here, guys, will not send a reset back. So his IBD will still the same. Why? Because he didn't send a reset. Okay. So the zombie now, in this case, guys, when he receives the reset, okay, he will not resend a reset, and he will not increase the number over here. This number is gonna stay 38 because the port is closed, or the number will stay 37 because he never sent a reset from his side. So his IBD will still the same, 37 in this case of the port is closed. Okay, let's say the step number 3 here, guys. The step number 3, the attacker will go again, send the same package again, sync ACK to the zombie or to the victim machine. He will reply back because he will say, you know what, I never send you a sync, you know, here is a reset. And he will increase, you know what, the IBD with a number. If this number is 39, you know what that means? That port 80 was open. If this number is 38, okay, that means the port was closed, and the attacker now knows which port is open. And again, the attacker is not again in the picture at all. Why? Because even in this step number is 2, he spoofed the IBM number of the zombie machine. So if you really looked at the target at that time, you will find all this communication and all this reset messaging coming from whom, guys? Coming between the target machine and the zombie machine. And the attacker now, by analyzing this output, analyzing the IP ID, and he find that it's increased by 1, now he can realize that that the port was open, and now the attacker will say, okay, you know what, the port is open right now. So this is a complete stealth scan. Means I never showed up at all to the target machine. I used a victim machine to utilize it and spoof the IP address to understand if this port is open or not. And again, why the attacker will do this? Because again, the attacker doesn't want to give you an early detection that they are scanning your network or are doing something maliciously. Okay, all what you will see here, guys, and someone, if he's doing security analysis in this servers, he will see a bunch of messages coming back and forth. But if someone who's trained like us will understand who's really sending sync ACK, why this person is sending sync ACK, and why I getting a sync ACK from this specific machine. So you can really start to really look at this, why my machine is sending sync ACK and why I'm getting reset, okay, from this specific IP address. This can give you an indication. But again, the whole interesting part about this message, guys, is the IBD ID and the numbers here. Okay, when we started this scan, guys, I used to bring this scan in my exams. I used to give this exam and I tell him in 3 steps, okay, tell me, okay, what is idle scan is all about. Okay, so the idle scan is about stealth. Okay, in the first early stages, there is a communication between the attacker and the zombie machine. What he's trying to understand from the zombie machine is trying to get one piece of information, which is IBD ID, which is the IP fragmentation ID. Okay, why? Because if this number is increasing, that means later on I can infer that the port is open. If this number is not increasing, I know this means the port is closed. So this is the first early beginning. He will send a sync ACK. Why he's sending sync ACK? Because he wanted to get the reset message along with the reset message, the IBD ID. Halas, we finished from the zombie in this, but I also know the IP of the zombie. So I'm gonna do in the second step, I'm gonna send a sync message with a spoofed IP of the victim or the zombie to the target machine. Okay, when I send the sync, I'm expecting sync ACK because this is the 3-way handshake that we talked about. But the acknowledgement, it will not go to the zombie, it will go to the original IP address. Okay, so when we reach to the original IP address, okay, you're getting sync ACK, you don't know who is this. Okay, you don't know. I never send you sync to start with. Why are you sending me sync ACK? He will send a reset, and he will increase the number with 1. This is in case if the port is open. Okay, now the attacker will not really waste any time, and he will send again sync ACK to the victim machine or to the zombie machine. Okay, what happened is, okay, he will notice the reset message is coming again, and he will look at the IP ID. If he found this IP ID has increased twice, that means the port was open, and the different IP ID because it's increasing. To guys to try. Okay, so this is the command line is -si, which is idle scan, and then you add the IP address, and also you add the basically the zombie machine, and it will start to deduce or infer what ports are open. Okay, guys. What else I guys hear me? Everyone is okay?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so again, there is some certain IP address, okay, that I told you guys you shouldn't be really messing around with this IP address, and it will tell you, okay, if you guys are allow me to just expand this a little bit, okay. If I went up here, you'll find some of them are Army IP addresses, okay, and NASA IP addresses, and the Defense Air Forces IP addresses. So it really doesn't want to really scan this IP, and that's why I told you guys don't do scanning on the internet, because scanning on the internet is scan your network, scan your wireless network within at home. Okay, this is our interesting scanning. But when you scan, and I will show you something I did a couple of days ago because I wanted to scan a network for my work, like GoDaddy IP address. So I scanned this network, 72. Okay, and I scan the entire network. Okay, and I hit enter. Okay, so this is not actually good thing to do, because I will tell you why it's not good thing to do. This network, guys, is owned by GoDaddy, and there's so many websites are hosting their IP addresses and websites in GoDaddy as a service provider. So when I scan this network, it show me all the IP address within this network, which is /24. Okay, that is part of it, and it will give you a nice topology here for all these websites and how these websites are connected to the internet. But now this is a very obvious scan. It's coming from my own computers, going to the GoDaddy networks, and it's very obvious. Okay, so this is will open the eyes who is scanning us, and according to which website is really hosted there, it can be something sometimes it's trouble. Okay, guys. And then in the last thing that I wanted to cover before we go for a break, again, scanning is not bad thing, but again, you should be very careful when you do scanning, and you should be trying to be stealth. Try to hide your identity as much as you can. Okay, guys, here it's saying, again, we're doing this because we wanted to learn the attacking point of view and also the countermeasure, the defensive point of view. So the attacking point of view, guys, if you can see here, how to countermeasure scanning, you can see you need to configure your firewall and the IDS rules to detect and block any props. Okay, طبعا this is almost impossible. Okay, you cannot really have 100% blocking for all the scanning, because if someone's sending to you sync on a certain port, it's open, it will reply back. And if you closed from the firewall point of view, okay, what will happen? The communication to your website also will be closed. So this is, I would say, it's good to have, especially for ports which is not operating. Yani, for example, okay, so I have a web server here, okay, and this web server, guys, are running port 80, okay, and port 443. Okay. What he meant here, guys, my firewall here, okay, need to be configured to allow port 80 traffic and port 443. I cannot really block port 80 from the firewall point of view. If I blocked port 80 from firewall point of view, all the communication will break. Okay, because there is no way now to get to your web server. Okay, so but what he means here by configure your IPS and firewall with this is I can come here and say, you know what, I will only allow the traffic to port 80 and port 443, and all other traffic I will implicit deny. So if someone is scanning you or someone trying to initiate connection to outside over any other ports than these ports, guys, what will happen is the communication will break, and the attacker will not be able to really search anything else than 80 and 443. So this is what I meant by implementing this rule. Use customer rule set to block down the network and block unwanted ports in the firewall. This is what I was explaining again, that you need to really allow only 2 ports or 3 ports for firewall, maybe port 53 for DNS, maybe port 25 for mail, but any other ports, you shouldn't be open by default. Okay, guys? Hide sensitive information from public view. This is we have agreed about from fingerprinting. You don't let anyone to scan you and find all these ports and find all this service. Okay. Filter all ISMB messages. So you need to drop all the ISMB message. Filter means I wanted to deny, because ISMB messages can be used for 2 reasons. One of them is troubleshooting, okay, and find out if your life is alive or no. So I don't want this to be happening in my network. I don't want someone to bring me from outside. Okay, so this is one thing. The other thing that some attackers right now, they're using ISMB packets as a tunnels to really transfer data outside. So I really don't want ISMB in my message. It's really not going to help me in anything. So you should configure your firewall and router to stop this kind of messages. Okay. Ensure that mechanism used for routing and filtering at the router and firewall respectively cannot be bypassed using particular source port or source routing methods. Again, you need to configure your routers and firewall to make sure that no one will be able to bypass the firewall and scan your network, okay, especially if it's an internal network, okay? Perform TCP/UDP scanning along with ISMB probe against your organization IP address space to check the network configuration and available ports. So this is again back to the mentality of